Welcome to the Real Advisor Podcast. TRAP. Trap. Please follow us and join in the conversation on Twitter @Advisor Podcast, where you can suggest ideas and themes you'd like the Trap team to discuss. Also remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave a 6 out of 5-star review on iTunes. Doing all this really helps us, which means we can do more to help you. Now let's head over to the studio for the latest pile of Trap.
Yes, indeed, dear Trappists. Welcome back to the Real Advisor Podcast, episode 17 of the Real Advisor Podcast, TRAP, Trap. My name is Nick Lincoln. Joining me as ever are the three other horsemen of the apocalypse, Carl the Voice Widger, Andy Hart, and Alan the Storyteller Smith from his exclusive Blofeld-like ski lodge somewhere in the Alps, Courchevel, I believe, Alan. Thank you.
Indeed, that's right. Speaking to you live and direct from the French Alps.
Very, very good. Now, gents, we've got a show packed full of absolutely nothing. So before we get to the topical tidbits, let me hand over to my co-host, the ultra-crepidarial Mr. Andy Hart, for some more Trap reviews.
So the ultra-crepid what, Nick? Ultra-crepidarian, get it right. Here we go. So first up is RMC.
No, you are upper crepidarial.
Okay, thank you.
That makes you an upper crepidarian.
It's an adjective.
Beyond me. First up is excellent show, 5 stars, great podcast for financial advisors. Every episode has value. Next up, 5 stars, fantastic podcast. As a new advisor, I find the podcast full of so many gems, plus genuine laugh out loud moments in every episode. Thanks for taking the time to put this out. Please keep up the good work. The Meteor review is from Mark Hoyland, who we know quite well. It's almost interesting, almost 5 stars. As a sole trader with a relatively new business, it can be quite a lonely profession with no elder statesman to lean on for wisdom until now. It's like having a pub chat, professional therapy session. I like how the Trap Pack often disagree and are open about there being no perfect approaches to financial planning or indeed running a financial planning business. The hit of the whole review, and the fact that Nick Lincoln can grow a successful business in this game makes me feel optimistic about my chances. Back to you, Nick.
I've only just that review came in a little while ago, didn't it? I've just reread it. Yeah, thank you, Mark. Mark's actually asked me for some help on today or yesterday via emails. So, Mark, you can go whistle for that now.
He's got a point there, Nick, hasn't he?
He has got a point.
Absolutely,
I
can't deny
people
it.
look to you and think, if that guy can make a crack of it and seems to be somewhat
anyone can.
Then anyone can. Just keep being yourself. Keep being yourself.
And these are my friends. Okay, now we've got a little bit of a success story to share with you, Trappists, from one of the members of the Trap Pack. Mr. Hart, I know you're very self-effacing and you're never one for self-promotion, so I'll do it for you. A sincere, magnificent congratulations to you on Maven Money, which went through the 1 million downloads in the last week or so. Just from all of us.
No, I think it's approaching nearly 6 years since I launched the show. So yeah, it's taken a long old time to get there. It's just amazing. Obviously, the work that's gone into it. I think it's about 287 shows. So yeah, it's an amazing milestone. So yeah, thank you very much for mentioning it.
So Andy, that's
on Andy's behalf, thanks to all the listeners.
Well, sorry, Alan.
But you've done nearly one a week for 6 years. That's a hell of a dedication.
Yeah, I launched on, I think, June 2017. So 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So coming up to 6 years. Yeah, June 2023 will be 6 years. Yeah, generally stuck to the weekly show. I'm certainly in the point now where it's becoming very hard. But again, listening to podcasters that have been in this game for a long time, when it becomes hard, you've got to, that's the time you've got to continue to plow through. So, I'm getting through it. Yeah, so it's been fantastic. It's definitely going to be one of the biggest marketing things I've ever done. Loads of new clients come from it, loads of advisors come from it. Yeah, Cole?
Just from our own point of view, why has it become hard? Is it because it's to try and keep coming up with fresh topics and that kind of stuff, or?
Yeah, keeping fresh topics every week is the challenge. Yeah.
So we've got about 985,000 episodes or downloads to go. This Trap podcast, in order to meet and match your amazing attainment.
Trap's done some good numbers early on. I mean, the reviews are fantastic. The great thing about Trap is it's a concentrated audience. So the people that listen to it, really listen to it. It's not like a general food podcast where people just sort of dabble in and out. So that's the sort of uniqueness to the Trap sort of numbers. They're all sort of, real listeners as such. Back to you, Nick.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's great stuff. So another topical tip. I read an article on the FT, and there's a link to it in the so-called show notes, and it's not behind a paywall. The FT puts some stuff behind a paywall, and other stuff it doesn't, and this isn't. About the amazing decline in value of the UK stock market since the 1990s. Back in the 1990s, 1999 even, the UK stock market was about 11% of world market capitalisation, and now it's under 4%. And there are a variety of factors for that. One of them was Gordon Brown removing the dividend tax break that pension funds and so forth got back in the 1990s. But the bigger thing was this shift of pension funds. This crazy thing where they now match long-term liabilities with gilts rather than equities. And they've been net sellers of UK equities for decades now. So it's just an amazing decline in the value of the UK stock market relative to other markets, and it's just an interesting article. It's just I didn't realise that the UK market was only the blink of an eye was about 11% of world market cap. It's now 4%, sub 4%. I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying it's just contextually interesting.
Well, isn't Apple the one company, Nick, bigger than the whole UK stock market? That's the point we got to. I think Apple's market cap is more than the entire FTSE stock market, which is insane.
Well, I know looking at the Vanguard Global All Share Tracker Fund, so this is down the weeds already, isn't it? That Apple is about 3.8% of that.
Yeah. They've declined a bit. So at a certain point when Apple were at their peak, the one company, Apple, was worth more than the entire listed UK FTSE stock market. That is insane.
Yeah, nuts, isn't it? So I put out a tweet this week because this whole thing about prod and you're saying this is a niche audience, Andy, and it is a niche audience. You won't get the retail Joe Pub listening to this because they'll think, what the hell are we talking about? So in terms of prod and consumer duty, whether or not we are, sorry, Carl, as well for you, this won't apply for you, but this is probably coming to you at some later date because things tend to go across the Irish Sea. Are we product manufacturers? And if so, that imposes on us a whole new bevy of things that we have to comply with. And I put the question out on Twitter, are we product manufacturers under prod or consumer duty? And you know what? Nobody bloody knows. I got 126 responses. 53% of people said, yes, we are product manufacturers. And 47% said, no, we're not. So no one knows. And by product manufacturers, I asked the question, if we put together our own in-house model portfolios, which I've done since 2008, which I know all you guys do as well, does that make us product manufacturers under prod? And people just don't know. And if we are, there's a whole new level of regulatory stuff that we have to go through. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on this.
Intuitively, the answer's got to be no. We are not. We cannot be product manufacturers. All we're doing is assembling existing manufactured products and bundling them together. But that's logical, and so therefore the answer is probably likely to be the opposite. And we are product manufacturers. I haven't really investigated it, Nick. What are the implications? Is there sort of a headline around what the implications if we are deemed to be manufacturers? Presumably it's not a world of regulatory hurt for us.
Yeah, so if you are a product manufacturer, you've got to show evidence that your products are suitable for the market you're targeting them at, all that kind of stuff. You've got to have, segmenting your clients. That's got to be document. It's just a whole range of stuff that to me is just completely not part of what I do and doesn't add any value to the end consumer as per normal. I haven't looked into it in too much depth. I'm hoping the answer is no. We're not a product manufacturer. If there
are any compliance experts listening in, please let us know so we know what to do next.
But we often know what they come up with, don't we, Alan? They don't say Don't worry about it, guys. They're overthinking it. It's going to be a 28-page report that says you are.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, so I know that 360 Services, which is a respected compliance consultancy, out you can buy in their services. They say that we are product manufacturers, but as you alluded to, Andy,
Okay.
Turkeys and Christmas.
It's amazing what people will say when your salary depends on it. Okay, Carl, deck of unregulated cards falling. Lots of examples in Ireland of firms who sold unregulated investments finding themselves in a bit of hot water.
Yeah, I just thought this is definitely topical in Ireland, and I know from some of the stuff that you guys have shared with me that it's pretty topical in the UK as well, which is basically firms that were selling unregulated products, be they geared property funds or loan notes or solar panels or doing some other kind of off the beaten track stuff. Every single week in the newspaper, there's a story about a firm in trouble in court or with the central bank or whatever. So my hope, and I'm repeating myself a little bit, but my hope is that, that regulated firms have to stick to regulated investments and regulated advice, and that this kind of, I don't know how you describe it, and I'm sure some of them are good, but I just can't see the value in stuff that's, not something that has always worked. I would hope that our regulator would step in and make a sweeping statement on this and just say, look, it's not okay to do this stuff. You're the regulator or you're not. Because every single week there's a number of very high profile cases going on in Ireland at the moment, and they've been going on and on and on, and we're reading about them for literally years on end. So I'm hoping that we're coming towards a very important point whereby this stuff is banned once and for all, and that there might be a place for it, but it's not through regulated firms, because it confuses clients, and clients can get comfort if they're going, oh, well, this is a firm that's regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland, so therefore this might be okay. But they're selling then unregulated products. And I think it's confusing for clients. And you guys have spoken about consumer duty and all of that kind of stuff. I think, if we're looking after the client's best interests, then this stuff is not okay, because it definitely muddies the water.
Yes, agreed. I think in the UK there is a move to, and I agree. I think if you're a regulated advisor, you should only be allowed to sell regulated investments. And if you want to go into a SIP or what have you, you've got to have a really good reason just for having a SIP wrapper anyway. But within the SIP wrapper, you should only be allowed to put in regulated investments and commercial property or what have you. And I think the UK, we're kind of at that situation now. The SIP providers now are so under the microscope. But there's been loads of shenanigans in the past. We could all talk about this forever. When we did the last episode 16, with the shipwreck funds and off-plan hotel things in the Bahamas and stuff like that, and student rent accommodation funds, and just absolute garbage, But because it comes under the veneer of being sold by a regulated advisor, as you say, Joe, why should Joe Public know any better? They've got their own lives to lead. They think, okay, this guy is regulated, this girl is regulated. This must be kosher stuff, and it's just horrible. Anything, Andy, Alan, anything to add?
Yeah, it's all financial trash. It all blows up in the end. It's all sold by marketing companies, not financial companies, and we know why it's sold, because there's heavy commissions involved in it. These companies sprout up, they sell a load of this crap, make a load of money, and then a few years later they blow up. Rinse and repeat. We've seen it 1,000 times. It's horrendous. The regulator, the stuff that they focus on, their guns are facing in the wrong direction all the time. They need to get on top of this stuff and protect consumers from professional salespeople that manipulate them easily with all of this guff. So I absolutely hate it. It's all financial trash, and all of it should be banned. But that's not going to happen. So I feel quite strongly about this, Alan.
Yeah, one of the challenges is that it sounds interesting and it sounds exciting, doesn't it? When you talk about some of these property developments in the Bahamas or Cape Verde or something, they've always, the interesting thing, there's always a story. There'll be some sort of demographic revolution of the amount of people that are holidaying in this destination now, and you'll have a beautifully presented slide deck that looks logical and rational. And the alternative of investing in the great companies of the world, buying low-cost index funds and forgetting about it, it just sounds obviously dull. So it's kind of breaking news as we're recording this, and the details are yet to be disclosed. I have no idea what the actual issues are, but there's a wealth manager, discretionary fund manager in the UK. It is public information, so we can share it. They're called Wealth Tech. They've also got a different brand called Vertem, and I don't know much about that. I'm pretty sure, I don't know about you guys in the UK, if you've heard of Vertem. I think I've heard of Vertem as a DFM that had promoted their services to IFAs, a number of IFAs who've recommended them over the years, unless I'm getting him confused with another company. But the details are yet to be revealed, but it's not looking very good. They've been suspended by the FCA, not allowed to transact or to continue operating. They've got a right to their clients, so there's something something amiss going on there. And I don't think this will be the end of it. As Warren Buffett famously said, it's only when the tide goes out that you see who's been swimming naked. And of course, a decade plus of zero interest rates and all these creative invented products and services to try to get a yield, to try to get some sort of investment return have been created. And now, things have changed very rapidly. Interest rates have gone up quickly. And it's all going to, often it's a house of cards and it's coming crashing down. So I'm afraid it's back to basics. It's back to simplicity. And absolutely our last episode unpacked that in quite some detail. I think it's worth just reminding ourselves, simple is best.
Without a shadow of doubt. Okay, Mr. Widger, again, now this is a topical tidbit that we could go on forever. So let's just try and keep it focused. But ChatGPT, what does it mean for financial advisors? I know you, Smithy. I know this is the toy that you're running with at the moment, and it's kind of front and central of what passes for your brain. Carl, what do you think it means for financial advisors? Then on to Alan, then Andy.
Yeah, I'm certainly no expert in this, and I would defer to Alan on this a lot. But I suppose I've been looking at this a little bit, and I think that what it means for financial advisors into the future is that it will make the kind of more mundane, menial tasks easier, for sure. And I think we should all be looking to AI from that point of view. However, if you have a viewpoint or you have an opinion, that's never going to be replaced by AI. And I think that's the type of stuff that, if we talk about being real financial planners and that every single client gets a different plan because it's bespoke to them and it's bespoke to their situation, I can't see for the life of me, and hopefully I'm not proven wrong, right? But I can't see how, somebody said, I saw some Twitter poll recently that financial advisors are going to be put out of business by AI, by ChatGPT and the likes. How could that possibly be the case? We've seen the demise of robo-advice. We've seen, we spoke about this before, about people pulling out of that market because it's not working, because people want other people to guide them through complex stuff and, to give them bespoke plans that are relevant to the clients and their families and maybe the next generation. I don't think AI can get that sophisticated, certainly anytime soon, as far as I'm concerned. And I'll say it another way. If I was a client, I wouldn't be letting AI guide my financial plan for absolute sure. So that's just kind of my brief take on it. But as I said, I'm definitely no expert in it. So yeah, I wonder what you guys think.
Do you want me to come in? If I am this trapped nominated expert, it's the epitome of in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, because I know a tiny bit more than you do because I've spent some time. I'm fascinated by it. I really am. And yeah, I've got that kind of magpie brain, I admit, and it's the latest shiny new object for me to pay attention to. But I do sense that maybe unlike my previous shiny objects like NFTs and some crypto stuff, this has really got some merit. This feels like kind of the coming of age of almost like the new generation of web, when the internet first came along, looking at this stuff. Now, you've mentioned, Carl, ChatGPT. That is one model. There's a language model, an artificial intelligence model that will allow you to create, written summary documentation. There's a load of applications for advisors in that. But there are literally thousands and thousands of other applications. It seems like just at the turn of this year, the beginning of this year, out of nowhere, these things had been, quietly being built in the background, but it hit the mainstream. I think when OpenAI, the company, released free to the public, and it still is free, ChatGPT-3, this program. And I don't know if you guys have spent any time playing with it, but certainly in terms of being able to create content. Yeah, well, 4 is the latest version, but ChatGPT 3 is still available. But look, Carl, you're absolutely right. Human beings, we're sentient beings. We are social creatures. I think we're going to be talking a bit later on in this episode about some of the experiences we have engaging with clients on a uniquely human level. I don't believe in my lifetime AI or computers of any sort of type will replace that unique experience. But God, if they can take away, and I know from my own business, the amount of just time-sucking stuff that we do with written documentation and spreadsheets and data entry and all that stuff, if that can be eliminated or minimized, fantastic. We're all for that. If that allows us to effectively have more time with real-life humans and real-life families, giving them the benefit of our wisdom, our experience, and our knowledge, knowing that the machines are taking care of all the dull stuff, then fantastic. And the last thing I'll say is I think it's something I've asked around at this moment in time, unless there's something hidden away. There doesn't seem to be anyone or any organization in retail financial services that I'm aware of that's really grasping this, that I'm aware of. And to quote Andy Hart, if no one else is doing it, you ask, what is it? You ask 3 times, and if the answer is still no or don't know, then you've got to do it yourself. So I'm just going to be attending numerous. There's numerous conferences and events in and around London, all the time. And I just want to get myself up to speed because I think the opportunities for forward-thinking financial planning firms are just extraordinary. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I echo a lot of what you said. I love ChatGPT. I've been playing around with it ever since it came out. I did a podcast on it. I asked it the top 10 financial, success or whatever, and put it all together. I just see it as an advancement in technology. I don't see it as this new, totally new frontier. I just see it as an advancement of what we currently have. In specific to us losing our jobs as financial advisors, I mean, as we're insiders, we know that that's not going to happen in a million years. But whenever they come out with these lists, financial advisors weirdly appear quite high on those lists because they don't know what we do. They think we just pick investment funds or something. And yeah, a robot's going to do that better than us. They don't realise that we manage the humans. Hence, that's our focus when we take on clients. And they often ask people that are slightly earlier on in their, journey, and they don't have any expensive financial questions. So when people do have expensive financial questions, that's when they want to see a human rather than just plug all of their information into ChatGPT and it spits out a solution. But yeah, bring it on. The more AI stuff we can use, the better. But, we're 2023 and our compliance facilities are still requiring us to provide bespoke advice. It's ridiculous. Clients don't need bespoke advice. They need pensions, ISAs, general investment accounts. Collectively, the client's unique. The individual parts we've seen a million times. And it's just, it's ridiculous. They're whenever it's one step forward of getting simpler, compliance wants to add 2 steps back, to rein us in. God forbid we can onboard a client, in 12 minutes. No, it's got to be 3.5 months or something. I don't know. So we're constantly fighting that battle, aren't we, with best of breed software solutions. I'm a big fan of it. I just see it as the advancement of technology, not this new frontier.
It will make us just far more efficient. The ability to have, people have Zoom meetings. I think, Nick, are you doing this already? So you can have a Zoom meeting and you can have instantaneously a transcription of it and then the key action points summarized and what to do, who does what and next, all automated and sent within seconds of the end of that meeting as one tiny example of thousands out there. So the net effect of that is simply greater efficiency for good financial planning firms. And Andy, there are still plenty of firms that don't do the human behavioral stuff, that are really, fund picking and choosing the best pension fund to invest in and so on. And of course, they are likely to to come under some threat. I don't think anyone is really going to. Well, the failure of robo so far has demonstrated that people still deal with people ultimately.
Yeah,
Nick, what do you think about this latest frontier of technology? Next.
I'm the anti-magpie. I think your magpie illusion was well made, Alan, and that's not a critique. I think you are like that. That's fine. I'm the anti-magpie. I'd wait and see. Wait and see, man. I mean, it took forever for the fire to catch on, and the wheel, and the knife and fork. These things. I'm a skeptic. There'll be some utility. I think it's going to have changes. Fun enough, the way I do see it and it's already having a massive impact is in the academies, in the universities and so forth, where already it's known that people are handing in dissertations that are done by ChatGPT. So I think it's going to lead, and I think this is a really good thing, to proper examinations, invigilated examinations, where you get into a bloody room and you sit down for 3 hours and you write. And for some of these youngsters who are out there, this writing business might be hard work on their little wrists. But that's my. I'll wait and see. I don't think it's a threat ultimately, but I could be wrong.
No.
But as we've said, robo. Every time a new robo brand comes out, the pinks, the financial media say this is the end of advisors, and every time you say no, it ain't. And if you're really worried about robo advice, then you should be, because you haven't got a business. It never works out. I don't see Chat GPT replacing the human element. 99% of what we do is behavioral stuff. It's human to human. It's social contact, and Chat GPT may well aid us in that, in the compliance stuff and the follow up stuff and the onboarding. Great. Will it replace us? I don't think so, but I could be wrong, because I think we're just at we're at the very bottom of this mountain called AI and Chat GPT, and we're just in the foothills, and we're just exploring that, and it's blowing our minds. There's a long way to go. Okay. Mr. Hart, Rathbones and Investec have merged. Tell us about it and what you think it means.
I don't know much about it. I've just read sort of the headlines around this, but they're two well-known brands in the discretionary fund management business, Rathbones and Investec. I believe they're managing close to 100 billion between the two of them now. Again, I don't know if they're going to come out with some funky new brand. They probably will. One that is sort of gender neutral and nobody quite knows where they sit, but who knows? Are they going to be called? Well, that's what a few brands have done, haven't they? They have chosen simple names that don't confer anything. It's odd, isn't it? It's like all of the lessons of brands have just been scrapped up during recent years. Anyway, so Rathbones and Investec have merged. They're doing it from cost saving point of view. I don't know what brand they're going to go with, but they're both quite well known brands in the discretionary fund management world. Sort of typically known for being quite expensive.
This is kind of hot on the heels of, was it last year? Smith and Williamson merged with Tilney to create another mega super brand. So it looks like we're just heading into the world of super brands. Huge organizations, 100 billion plus organizations. And undoubtedly there are opportunities, there are cost savings eventually. I mean, putting these sort of organizations together is an absolute shit show in terms of the back office, the tech, and of trying to get and culturally to get them to match.
Yeah.
And it takes, generally, using past experience, it takes years and years to kind of properly merge of different sort of inevitably both will have different cultures within the organizations and sort of mix and matching that. But it looks good for the accountants, it looks good potentially over the longer term for shareholders. Whether it's wonderful for clients, I'm not sure. Just one little relevant tidbit to this is that over the years, we have often picked up, I don't know about you guys, and there's plenty of M&A stuff going on in Ireland as well, Carl, we'll ask you in a second, but we have picked up numerous clients who were clients of smaller firms like all of us, whose owners then sold to the likes of the companies we've just mentioned, and of course they get pigeonholed, they get put into the kind of the paint by numbers investment portfolio, the in-house, quite expensive portfolio. They don't have the same level of service that they had with the previous kind of, 2, 3, 5, 10-man band operation. And so they start looking around, and we're more than happy to sort of say, yes, come and speak to us, because we're a bit like the firm that you used to work with happily for 20 years before they sold out to the big companies. So I see it for us sort of smaller boutique firms as positive. Let all these big, huge organizations merge. And some people like it, but honestly, I think a lot of people prefer the more personal, individual kind of experience that they get with dealing with a smaller business. What are your thoughts, Carl, over in Ireland?
Yeah, it's funny because we're kind of probably only at the very, very start of this M&A activity. And so there's a couple of PE firms. Interestingly, the general insurance market has been undergoing massive transformation over the last few years. So there's definitely consolidators or aggregators or whatever you want to call them coming in and kind of gathering up 8, 10, 12 different firms. And they're going to, I'm sure, move those on. But in the financial advice market, it hasn't really been a thing, but there is, without any question, lots of activity at the moment. So lots of talking going on. Some have entered the Irish market from the UK, so aggregators plus PE. And I'm sure there's lots of deals being done in the background that I'm not aware of, but yet I haven't heard of kind of lots of deals being concluded just yet. And I would imagine when it starts, then it will kind of start to snowball. But it seems to me nobody wants to kind of be the first one. So it's a bit of a standoff at the moment. But yeah, I take the point. I don't think there are any of those massive brands here just yet that are kind of starting from scratch to develop a kind of a much bigger operation. There is a part of me thinking that the firm that stands alone and remains independent is going to probably, roll it on 5 years, be unique in that regard. And I think can have an awful lot of USPs that some of the others don't have. So I think there's definite merit in a long-term, very successful strategy for a firm to remain independent. But I don't have any kind of firm views on it. I'll be a little bit like Lick and the AI. I'll be sitting back and watching from afar and seeing exactly what happens, because definitely interesting times ahead. I think the general insurance market has been kind of done and dusted now. And now it's like, right, where else can we look? Oh, let's look at the financial advice firms. So yeah, very interesting times. And yeah, there's going to be lots of stuff happening over the next kind of in the short term, I would say. So yeah, watch this space is for sure the news over here.
Okay. So the Tarquins and Petronellas are shuffling around from one brand to another.
Yeah.
Mr. Hart, let's move on to another topical tidbit. 100% global equity funds. Oh, this is prepare for Mr. Hart to melt down. Global equity funds coming in as a 4 out of 7 on the risk scale, Andy. Speak to us.
Well, this is just brilliant. I know a lot of the listeners are on their journey, as all we are on the call, from what it used to be 60-40 portfolio every client gets. Then it went up to 80-20, and now a lot of advisors are thinking, actually, 100% global equities is where the real returns are going to come from. Yes, I'm going to manage my clients' behavior, yada, yada, yada. A lot of my new clients listen to the Maven Money show, so they come well prepared, and they're like, Andy, 100% global equities, no questions. I then have to, from a compliance point of view, deal with it in a slightly different way. Anyway, those of you listening, the Dimensional World Fund, the Vanguard Life Strategy Fund, maybe the Vanguard sort of all-share global fund as well, I believe they're all coming in at 4 out of 7s now, which is very interesting. If you asked a typical compliance consultant, on the scale of 1 to 10, where do you see, in their world, risk of 100% global equity fund? I'm pretty sure they're going to tell you it's, near the far right. It's like 8, 9, 10 out of 10. The fact that it's coming in at 4 out of 7, I know it's maybe the recent issue with bonds having more volatility to the downside maybe played into the hands of this. But what I'm saying is I'm just giving you more collateral with your clients and your compliance consultant that the 100% global equity funds now, if they are globally well spread, the volatility is not that much because they're globally well spread, etc. And their peak, peak to troughs are not actually that extreme either. So anyway, it's just more things to put in your arsenal as such. So yeah, they're coming in at 4 out of 7, which I think is brilliant. Anyone else? Any comments on this?
So are you saying that when I put with my risk planning software that I use, which is very expensive, and I've got 4 out of 7 clients, they're coming out as 4 out of 7 on the risk scale. So have I got to put those clients now into these world equity funds? And my higher risk clients were 7 out of 7. I should probably put them into the index linked gilt fund.
Put them into the index linked gilt fund. Yeah.
Done,
if that's how it works, you do the mumbo jumbo questionnaire, you get the result on the scale of whatever, you then align it on the scale, and then you move forward. Oh, no, you don't do that. Oh, what? So we've got to interpret it, have we? Oh, yes, you do. It's mind blowing. Anyway, so I'm going to be banging on about the risk of low returns this year. So I'm going to introduce the concept of the risk of low returns. So I'm going to try and bring that to life in as many different ways as I can. But for me, the risk of low returns is enormous for lots of people, certainly over multi-decades. I'm going to be unpacking the risk of low returns, which people don't talk about enough. And we've seen it with real clients who are in their 70s and 80s and have not invested correctly in my world, for the last few decades. And they've got all right wealth, but it would be fantastic if they had more wealth. They could do more things with it. They could help their family out more. They could, not worry so much about money. So the risk of low returns for real people, I think, is a bit of a travesty that we're trying to address. Any final points on that?
I'll just make a comment that every time I refer to this sort of stuff publicly, like on social media, LinkedIn or Twitter or something, and just it's kind of a statement of the bleeding obvious that longer term, real returns, using history as our guide, investing in the great companies of the world is likely, no guarantees, but likely to be more rewarding. I can guarantee I'll get half a dozen responses saying, yes, but. And there's been periods of time in the past where bonds have outperformed, and there's been periods of time where, well, the classic is the Japanese equity market. And there's always pushback. And I ignore it and move on. But inevitably, I think what we're saying is there are no guarantees. I'm just trying to put weigh the odds in our favour. There may well be a period, hard to believe, where bonds will outperform. Don't know. But I think the balance of probability is less likely. But I just find it interesting. Every time I refer to anything remotely like that, you guarantee you get half a dozen people saying, yes, you're wrong, and look at this period between 1936 and 19 whatever, when that wasn't the case. But all we do is tell the truth and move on.
Most professionals don't know what they're doing, Alan, when it comes to investing. They still follow the dogma of the day. They're still doing everything really complicated. 25 question risk questionnaires, a multi-asset fund for clients. It's it is what it is. Social media rules going to get stuff knocked out. Back to you, Nick.
Thank you very much. For the dear Trappists who are listening to this or watching this, you can't see that our recording software, once again, I think is giving us the heebie-jeebies. My recording stopped earlier. I had to leave the studio and come back. Carl, if you leave the studio and come back, so it might re-engage your recording. That's all I can tell you. Wow, the fun we have, eh? The time we put aside. Mr. Smith could be out on the slopes in Courchevel, but he spent his time doing this, and it could all be to no avail. We'll find out at the end of this show. Okay, that's quite a bit on the topical tidbits there. And there's so much going on. I mean, you wouldn't know this, dear Trappists. We're recording this episode at the start of a happy new tax year to all of our listeners. So I'm sure the three of us in the UK here have just had a whole season of capital gains tax washing through pregnant gains and so forth. Obviously, from today, the capital gains tax allowance has crashed down by 50%. It's crashing down in 365 days by a further 50% to £3,000. So that's all been going on and good fun. So there's a topical timestamp for you. I think while we wait for Carl to rejoin us, he's putting pennies he's putting euros into his meter in Limerick, and he's firing up his IT section. Let's move on to what we call the meat and potatoes. Carl is coming back into the room, and even the meat and potatoes sound drop isn't playing. So this is all going very well. So, Carl, can you hear us, my friend?
I certainly can. Sorry about that, gentlemen. Technology, huh? AI my backside.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't even get the podcast software working.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh, Christ on a bike. Okay, so Carl, show God your 5-year plan. We can get too focused on the long term. It's incumbent on us to get clients to live their best lives now. You extemporize, and then we'll hand over to Mr. Smith.
Yeah, so I've been reflecting, as is my wont. So if you looked at my own 5-year plan 5 years ago, it has remarkably not worked out. Let's just say it has evolved. And even if I go back to the last 2 years, 2 years ago, would I think personally or professionally I am where I am now? Definitely not. And that kind of got me thinking about, as our jobs as financial planners, when we do, say, cash flow plans, right? What are we always looking to do? We're trying to get rid of red out of the plan, right? So any cash flow shortfalls in the long term. And then when we talk about investments, we're always talking about in the long term. So you got to stick with the plan, and you got to, look to the long term. And if we're looking at returns and all that kind of stuff, it's long term. Everything is long term. And I thought about this from my own point of view that, do you know what? I've been doing a lot of, over the last few years, when this happens, I will do this, or, we will have that experience, or I will feel this particular way. And do you know what, guys? I'm just tearing that plan up, and I'm going to start living each day as it comes. I'm going to start living in the moment. And I've had some experiences in the very recent past with clients whereby, yeah, of course, we're always looking to, are we going to run out of money and all of that kind of stuff. So just two quick stories. I have a absolutely wonderful couple who've been clients of ours for a good few years. And unfortunately, the husband passed away last year. So it's about maybe 9 months ago at this stage. And I left a gap before. Obviously, there's some cleaning up we have to do in terms of investment portfolios and that kind of stuff, and putting it into one name. And it's all tough stuff. So I always try and leave a big gap. Thankfully, this hasn't happened too often. But when I sent the email out to the spouse, she's absolutely diamond of a lady, and she just came back and went, "Yeah, look, it's been a tough time, and we had so many plans for travel post-COVID, and they were hanging on, and obviously those plans are out the window now." And I just felt so, without sounding, I really, really hope this doesn't sound condescending at all, but I just felt so sad and so sorry for her, because they didn't get to do all of the things that they wanted to do. And it just drove home the point that, look, don't wait around to do that bucket list item. And look, we're in the lucky position that most of the people we talk to are quite privileged. So they do have the resources to do the stuff now. And, it's so incumbent on us as real financial planners to make sure that people go and live their best lives. Like that is our job. Our job is to, match the resources with getting people to live their best lives. And I had another new clients, sold their business, have a bunch of money for the last 3 years in the bank. And they're now kind of coming to us because they're worried about the effects of inflation, as they should be, and, as is right. So they came in, we did the plan, they're never going to run out of money. And, they wanted to do things like put in new windows in the house and put in solar panels, that kind of stuff. And they haven't been doing it because they were worried that they were going to run out of money. And I was like, okay, the financial plan was able to tell us, look, this is not going to be an issue. We can drive it on. But more than that, there was kind of, could I get a new car? And that would, we'd get some thrill out of that because we haven't had a new car in years. And we'd love to go and visit our daughter who's living abroad. And, we're worried, can we go for more than a week or whatever? And without any question or doubt, we can. And I just thought it'd be a good conversation. It's kind of philosophical as opposed to anything to do with investments or any technical stuff. But, we spoke about what is our main role here. It's about managing human behavior, but that's not the right way to say it. Our role here is to be the facilitator, to help people live their very best lives. And that's where I get my greatest thrill when I have another story which I won't go into, but thank you. A client we're running our Future You event, and he told me a story about he went to New Zealand for 7 weeks to visit his son and brought his daughter over to New Zealand because his daughter had a baby as his son's wife had a baby, and the two cousins had never met each other, and he was able to facilitate that. And he said to me straight out, as you all know, we call it the Metis Life Plan. He said, because the Metis Life Plan gave us confidence to go and do that. And the hair stood up in the back of my neck.
Brilliant.
And,
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. So what do you all think about that?
Smithy, I think you're muted.
We hope anyway, or else something is broken.
Call Chevelle.
You wish. Yes, exactly. Well, proving the earlier made point that AI isn't going to disrupt these sort of experiences and conversations anytime soon. A couple of points. I just note that a colleague of mine, Graham, wrote a blog post. It's on our website. I can post a link in the show notes. And it's called Someday, Maybe One Day. And I think he just came from the heart. He just typed it out and read it and he sent it to me. And it was kind of one of those moments when you read an article written by someone that you know well. And it's just beautiful. It's just all these things. Someday I'll do this. Someday I'll do that. I mean, the very last line, looking at that, is someday I will have my last day, which is true for all of us. And it's just sort of encouraging people to do those things that they should be doing. Just sharing an anecdote or a brief reference. The thing is, we get close to our clients, don't we? We say clients become friends, friends become clients. One of my earliest clients, John, died this week. I just felt it was very poignant for me because he was literally, I think I shared in a previous episode that when I was getting going, I did this sort of crazy marketing stunt. I put an advert in the newspaper when the Equitable Life was blowing up. And he was one of the people who responded to it. And he came to see me, and he was an absolute, just a giant of a man in every way, absolute integrity running through his bones. And he had very diligently, from an early age, put a lot of money, more money than he could really afford, into a pension fund. Because he just knew the importance of building a retirement fund for himself, for his family, for later life. And he put it all, as often was the case, if you bought into the Equitable Life brand, you put, lock, stock and barrel into these funds. And of course, the whole thing went belly up and his money was locked in. I put this ad in the paper. He came to see me. I'll never forget the meeting. He sat there and he was a big guy, big man. And he had literally had tears rolling down his face.
Oh,
and he said to me, and I quote, he said, "These bastards have stolen my money. They've stolen my money." And I said at that moment, "John, I will do everything I physically can to help you win these funds back. You've done nothing wrong. You've been cheated and you've been taken advantage of." And so there began a whole process that we did, writing. I wrote letters. I got on the phone. I spoke to all manner of different people at this organization. And by hook or by crook, we managed to extract his funds. We eventually got all the money out in the end, and we transferred it across to a sort of normal SIP that was set up for him. But he was very, very damaged by that. His trust had been completely. He was very grateful to me and my colleagues for helping him out. Really grateful. He couldn't stop saying it in the end. But he had quite a lot of other money as well. He was very reluctant to allocate it or invest it. So we would have many a conversation. I fully understood why he didn't trust the financial services industry, having had the experience that he had. But slowly but surely, he just, all we do in our jobs, isn't it? All we do is we show up. I always say we show up every day. We do the right thing. We tell the truth. We try to help people. We don't always get it right, but we do our very best every time. And that's what I did. That's what my colleagues did. And eventually started talking about he had 4 grandchildren, and education was really important to him. When I had my first child, and I knew him then, when Sean was coming along, he gave me a bit of advice, which I still remember now. He said, when you have kids, he said, what you should do is give them the best education you can afford, a lot of love, and the rest is up to them. And I always remember that. So education was really important to him.
Yeah, lovely.
And what we eventually did was we set up effectively like an educational fund. It was just an investment account in his name, but the money was kind of notionally allocated to fund his grandchildren through school, through university, and it's exactly what's happened. So John passed away this week after an illness, and I'm just happy. I'm not trying to like claim glory or anything, but all we and my colleagues did was show up, was do the right thing, was help him, encourage him, and eventually he did invest, and his grandchildren have gone through, and they've grown up now, and they've gone through great university educations, and their future lives are as assured as any young person's can be nowadays. So it's another, you know, we've all got stories to share. We've all got these examples. And I think, and I'm, as I say, I'm proud of the work we did, and I'm sad for the loss for John and for his family, but he's absolutely left a legacy, and you couldn't ask for any more than that. So I'm pleased with the work we did. Carl.
Yeah, I just want to, before I bring in the other two guys, that's the point, Alan. You know, are you proud of the work that you do every day? And I have a financial planner working with me, Ronan Quealy, and Ronan said to me, he said, Carl, when the clients come in, they're all like your best friends. And clearly they can't all be my best friends. But the point is, I've been working with a lot of them for a long time, and I really like working with them, and I really like the people that I work with. And, you know, I have brought people on my journey with me, because remember, I was the guy who was selling the best pension fund because I thought that was the way. And a lot of these people have come from that Carl to the Carl who's, no, it's real financial planning. And that's what gets me up in the morning and gets me going every morning. And I, you know, it's easy to say it. It is so easy to say. We do really, really important work, and we have a deep impact on the lives of our clients. So, you know, that's the message for anyone, especially we get loads of questions here from people who are setting out on their journey. If you can go with that as your mission in life, then you are going to be a successful, real financial planner.
Yeah. I think that's a point well made. And yes, you know, as you said, Carl, show God your 5-year plan, and yeah, he laughs. You know, there's a saying, isn't there? Man plans and God laughs. There's even in Yiddish, man tragt und Gott lacht. You know, man plans and God laughs. But you still have to have a plan, don't you? That's the whole point. This whole thing again about ambiguity and making sure that our clients know that this is just as soon as you walk out of the Zoom meeting or you walk out of the office, this plan is redundant, because something will have changed or something's incipiently about to change. But you've still got to have a plan. What we're saying to our clients is, you're going to have a plan, but we'll adjust it along the way, right? You know, you won't be this smooth, linear journey to your financial salvation. It'll be bumpy, and there'll be bumps along the way. But we are here to stand on your shoulder, figuratively, as your consigliere, your financial counsel, and just guide you there and redirect you back. You know, redirect you like your sat nav. You know, you plan a route, and suddenly your sat nav will say, you know, shit, the motorway's shut, and it will redirect you around that blip, and it might take a bit longer, but we will get you there. But you still need to have a plan, because if you don't plan, then you just don't know where you're going to go, and suddenly you're going to be 63, and you're going to be hating your boss, and you're going to think, well, you know, you're stuffed because you haven't done the planning in those previous years, and you haven't made the adjustments along the way. Andy.
Not a huge amount to add, but yeah, we as financial planners sometimes do get a bit fixated with too many decades ahead. So we need to bring it back. You know, our typical client's probably thinking weeks, months, you know, short term. But life's that whole, you know, balance between enjoying now and planning for then, isn't it? I think the real thing we do with our clients is give them permission, because even though intuitively we know that they've got enough money to do all the things that they want to do, they just need that professional to say and confirm it, certainly through building a cautious plan. The long-term plans obviously do change, as you say. Man plans, person plans, God laughs. Very poignant in my situation. The last 5 years, a lot has happened. I've had twins, I've been divorced, I'm in new relationships, etc., etc. Businesses is going all well. I don't know.
Gender reassignment. I mean, it's all going on for you, isn't it?
It's a lot in the diary. So not a huge amount to add, but I think that's as important as well. Showing up every day with your clients. We have tough times, and we're going through various things, but we're not going to bring our problems into the client's situation. That's why I believe it is a little bit like going on stage when you have client meetings. You've just got to put all the crap that's happening in your life behind you and just be totally there for the clients. And sometimes you go into situations where there's a lot of happiness, like retirement, sold a business. A lot of the time it's divorce, it's someone's died, it's all different human emotions that we're confronted with, and we don't realise how skillful we are in those situations. Certainly having had hundreds, thousands of client meetings. Something else cropped up to my mind when I think Alan was talking, all about working with people that you like. The definition of should you fire this client and should they not be in your lives is if your phone rings and you see their name and it fills you with dread, you need to get rid of that client. That's the definition of should this client go. So just think of all of your clients' names, look at your phone, and if you see that name on and you go, yep, happy to speak to them, happy to speak to them, happy to speak to them, Jesus, what does this person want? If you get that Jesus, what does this person want, that person should not be in your business. I know it's a little bit off topic, but I thought I'd want to hammer that one in. So the test of whether or not you should not be working with this client and getting rid of this client is if your phone rings, forget that they might not have your personal mobile number, but the whole sort of thought experiment. If your mobile rings and you see their name and it fills you with dread, you've got to get rid of that client. Back to you, Nick.
Yeah, point well made, and also, we talk about this a lot. The emotional burden of what we do. It is hard. We need to keep ourselves. We need to be at our best in front of clients. Okay, so you need to take care of yourself as well. So you do need. I think there's a correlation between how mentally and physically fit we are and how good we are as advisors, because we do carry a toll, and the fact, and also as we all age and our client banks age, when that phone rings, it could well be this. Someone's son or daughter saying, your beloved client who you've known all these years, she passed away last night, and that's not going to diminish, is it? As our clients get older with us, and the clients do become friends and we do become involved. And it's like this is the price we pay. This is what we've chosen to do. This is our calling, right? But it comes with a heavy burden. Mr. Widger, you were raising your very cheap pen.
Yeah, it's a Metas Ireland pen, so it's certainly not cheap.
That's what I said.
Excuse me.
I tell you what, on eBay you can get Metis Norway ones. They're pricey because they're very scarce.
We shut down that project. Just a tiny little bit of pushback on something that both Andy and Nick have said, right? Which is about bringing your best self to your client meetings and leaving aside anything that you're going through yourself. Maybe a slightly different way of thinking about it, right? I think one of the reasons I've been very successful in dealing with business owners is that I'm a business owner myself, so that I would discuss with them my challenges as a business owner. But it's also fair to say that I've had some personal challenges myself, like Andy, over the last few years. All of my clients would know that, and it is okay for them to discuss that with me, and a lot of them would actually say, well, at the start of a meeting, how are you getting on, or whatever, and I'll be open and honest and I'll share the stuff. So I don't necessarily think that I take the point, of course, that we got to look after ourselves, and I'm putting that one out there all of the time, as you guys know, but I think being real is okay too, because I think that's going to help us forge stronger links, stronger connections with our clients. Just that all the challenges they have, we also have as well. Sorry, Andy.
No, this is a wider subject. I've spoken about this with other financial advisors. How open are we with our clients? I've been very open from the beginning, but we don't want our issues, concerns, challenges to dominate the meeting. So it is that balance, isn't it? It's probably 90-10 or maybe 80-20. Totally. We want to open up. We want to be human. We want to be vulnerable. We want to share ourselves with our clients. Absolutely no problem with that. But I suppose it's... Yeah,
that was kind of my point. Yeah.
But we don't want to have the initial meeting and, it starts at 9 o'clock and 9:30. I'm still rambling on about my issues with custody or something, co-parenting. But yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
So some advisors are very, no, that's just my personal stuff. I'm just going to go in there and deal with that. And these are quite successful advisors that I know that told me this stuff over the years. Whereas other advisors that are also successful have told me sort of a slightly different tact that they've got. Yeah, I'm much more around the be yourself, but still professional, but you know, you can still let your guard down and be yourself quite a lot as well. Any other thoughts?
100%.
Mr. Smith.
Just to add that, we may have touched on this before, that when you have these sad situations where a client passes away, what I've often found is after the immediate family are notified, the next call is to us. Because we are the ones who we exist at the intersection of the money, the finances, the wills, the estate, and the human beings and the family. And I've often reflected on that. What a privilege it is, what an honor it is to be in that position. It is, as Nick has suggested before, it's to some degree can be a mental burden. It's thinking, well, I don't have the answers necessarily, but to be in the role, because it's not the accountant, it's not the lawyer, it's not anyone else really. We exist in that place, and it's something I think to be treasured, to be respected, and to make sure we continue to fulfill the importance of that role. And I think this is the key to the Real Advisor podcast. This is what we're talking about. This is what begins to, without kind of just blowing our own trumpet too much, but we're sort of stating the fact that the four of us have often talked about over a beer in a pub or something, because that's the sort of stuff we talk about sometimes. But it's absolutely true. And I'm just not convinced that exists out there, across the board for every advisor. I think there's a lot of people who are just, completely focused on the data, the facts, the spreadsheets and the numbers, and don't really go to the next level. So anyone listening to this, encourage you to get closer and closer to the families that you operate with and you serve and look after. It's an important role. No one else is doing it, and it's such a vital thing for any family to have a trusted advisor relationship, and it's what we all strive to do at all times.
Andy.
Well, this is what I was going to say. When I take on new clients, I say your relationship is with me. It's not this large organisation where there's going to be advisors that are in and out. So I think that's a selling point for solo advice firms. I know larger firms do it slightly differently, but I think that's a selling point for the solo advice firms. And if you are a solo advisor, bang that drum. Say, look, your relationship is with me. You phone me. I've got a team behind me that do various things, but everything comes via me. Again, I know multi-advisor firms sell it in a different way, but yeah, if you're a solo advisor, sell that as a huge benefit. Yes, you could go with large, random corporate organisation, but the good people are going to be in and out, and therefore you're going to have to re-establish a relationship every time with like a lead advisor, and it's just you could do without it. Anyway, yeah, that's it.
Okay, very good. Just to push back against Carl, pushing back against me. What I meant was that when you're engaging with clients, when they come into your life for that annual planning meeting or whatever it is, bi-yearly meeting, 6 monthly, be present. So whatever's going on in your life, you've just got to get that out of your headspace and give these people a damn good listening to. It's really hard sometimes. Something will have happened just before a meeting starts and your brain's foggy. You've just got to give the people the respect they deserve. But by all means, share things. I absolutely, with limited company owners, I'm a limited company owner, as you said, Carl. So you have a synergy with certain people. You have an affinity because you can see the world through you're walking in their shoes to a degree. I shared the story of my divorce and so forth with my clients, and they were all asking now about the lovely Penelope, and then they know I've been married, and because it's human. But definitely share that side of yourself as well. There's no shame in it. People aren't necessarily going to judge you unless you do something really heinous. And Alan, the court case will go well, and we're all rooting for you.
I'm relying on your support. Thank you.
Yeah. We're your character witnesses, Alan. So you're facing a life stretch, my friend.
Oh my God.
Okay. I think we've given that. Are we happy? We've given that a damn good.
Well done.
Yes.
You're right. You're right as usual. Yeah, well done.
Oh no, everything. I love this. Everything.
I 100% agree with what you said. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Let's see if this works. Oh, thank God it works. There we go. Well, at the door. Well, guess who it is? It's Posty with a giant sandwich.
Posty.
It's hauling it up my drive. I can see it now. These are the questions that are coming into the Real Advisor podcast from our beloved Trappists, our audience. If you want to post a question to us, zap one to us. The pinned tweet at Advisor Podcast has the link. Even easier, in the so-called show notes, there is a link. You click on that, you submit your question, and in due course, we will come to them. We've got a backlog of questions still, so we're working our way through them. We're doing 2 an episode currently. Let me read out the first one. I'll start with Amelia, actually. Amelia is a big fan of the show. I think it's her and her mum. They're from the northwest, Cheshire way. They seem to love the show for some reason, which is really nice to have female input and know that we're reaching a female audience, because we are pale male and stale. We know that, but what can you do? Amelia, who's on Twitter as @Amelia Powell. That's an easy one. Well done, Amelia. We like that. She says, a young new advisor, that's her, a part of an independent firm en route to chartered, looking for discussions around inheriting clients with advisory portfolios where providers and fund choices are limited. What suggestions could you make here? I really enjoyed you touching on a strong portfolio and your simplification here. The global equities versus other crap, in quotes. Could you talk more about this? I attend lots of the road shows, and sometimes it's hard to see the wood through the trees. Thoughts on DFMs? Can we explore the AI space and ideas? Amelia, there's a lifetime's worth of questions here. Can we explore the AI space and ideas on developing your firms in this space? Okay, well, we talked about AI earlier, so we'll nail that one off. Okay, who wants to run with one of the 78 questions that Amelia put there in various subclauses? Carl, your finger's raised.
I'll go first. Stop going to fund manager roadshows. It's a waste of your time. And get comfortable with simplifying your process, and don't worry that it's, broadly speaking, the same portfolio that all of your clients are getting. You don't need to make it any more complicated or sexier or anything like that. So just get yourself comfortable that that's what you're doing, and then focus on the human behavior thing. That would be my advice to Amelia.
Can I jump in here? I really get it. I understand it. When you're early on in your career, you are overwhelmed with the volume of noise from the investment management industry. We've talked about this before, but if you are, if you're a keen student of your profession, you're going to read the magazines, read the blogs, read the online stuff, and it's conflicted and it's confusing. One piece of advice I would give, and it is quite specific, but I think all of us have a respect for this organization. There's a company called Dimensional Fund Advisors, DFA. They have a program that they run 2 or 3 times a year. It's called the Foundations of Investment course. I believe last time I looked, it was 2 days, 2 full days. And that is almost like it's a cleansing of all the noise and knowledge and information that you might have picked up before. It goes right back to basics. It's like, do markets work? Are markets efficient? Yes, no. Let's identify. Let's look for the evidence for or against any of these things. And not, obviously, they're arriving at the conclusion, which is their way of life is the kind of evidence-based, is the appropriate way. You make up your own mind. But what you will do is you will learn from scratch as if you knew nothing at all. And anyone, regardless of where they are on their career, seek out Dimensional, ask to go in their Foundations of Investment course. And I think it will make life a lot clearer for you, Amelia. Who's next?
Mr. Hart.
So if you ever go to a roadshow where anyone's talking about investments, standing on the stage, and they're talking about sectors, countries, and guessing where the markets are going, they're doing what I call lying from the stage. So be very cautious of people that are lying from the stage. DFMs, all they do is extract value. Not a fan of DFMs at all. In relation to investment portfolios, there is one fund solutions that are going to beat pretty much 99% of all solutions out there. The investment management business game has been won. Obviously, there is hundreds and thousands of people that their salaries depend on pandering to this madness that's been going on for so many years. But choosing the investment funds is not the reason why your clients are going to be successful. You put client A in the perfect investment fund and they make all the behavioural mistakes under the sun, versus client B in the worst investment fund, but they do all the behavioural correct, they do all the correct behavioural things like aggressively increasing their portfolios, not panicking to the markets, getting their tax position right, updating their financial plan. Client A is in the best investment fund, that they're going to end up in a complete disaster. Client B is in the worst investment fund, but they're going to end up, you're going to take them to financial salvation because all the other stuff's way more important. So the investment element into it is important, and you want to get it right. But there are other things I think you should focus on first. I'm pretty sure Amelia works for SJP, so I think what she's exposed to is maybe not the same as what other advisors can be exposed to. I don't know if she can go on the DFA courses, but yeah, it's important to get it right, but it's not the be all and end all. Yeah.
She says in her question she's part of an independent firm. So
yeah, I don't think she's part of SJP. But anyway, that's
okay.
That's by the by.
Okay.
Good
I know you
love
SJP, Andy, but
Andy's point is well made. This Amelia, it's asset allocation is the big thing. That's the big driver, as Andy said. You can research your way to a migraine, finding the best smooth return fund that's top quartile and has alpha and beta and Sharpe ratios coming out of its nostrils. And if you put client A into the best absolute return fund and client B into one that's slightly worse, the first client will have their money last a bit longer. The second client will run out of money a bit sooner, but they'll both run out of money because you've got them in the wrong assets. It doesn't matter. All this bullshit around fund selection. Long story short, and I'm inspired by the voice, Mr. Widger. And I think we've all been down this route. When I started off in 2001, I was a fund picking IFA. It was 3 plus a half. And I've evolved now. This is happening now in my business. I have one equity fund for my clients, and I just moved my entire pension fund and my ISAs into one equity fund because I take my own medicine, and and I don't have DFM permission, so it's got to be advisory. Over the course of the next 12 months during the annual planning meeting process, I'll be telling my clients, listen, you've got 4 equity funds at the minute in your portfolio. I found one fund that does everything those 4 funds give you. In fact, it gives you slightly broader exposure, 13,000 of the great companies of the world, including emerging markets. There's no need to have these 4 funds, these moving parts. You're going into it, consent here. And whether the client's got 100,000 or 100 million, they will go into, I'm pushing this to the extremes, they will go in that one fund because that one fund gives them global capitalization, and it's simple. And it's a screaming rejection of the culture that says complicate things to justify your fees, which I think is a pernicious evil in our mighty noble profession, this thing of ours. Okay, Amelia, there's some thought. And if any of us see you at a roadshow, Amelia, we will give you a damn good talking to. Okay,
there's a lot of information in episode 14, which we did pretty much a whole episode about advice to early stage financial planners, and included the reference to the investment solutions. So if you haven't heard that one, Amelia, do check out episode 14.
Great stuff. Thanks, Anna, for going to the back catalogue. That's helpful. Okay, so the next Trappist question is from Toby Hines, who's on Twitter as @Toby Hines. These are brilliant. These are names that just are spelt properly and are easy. Toby asks, you are at an event, the supermarket or a barbecue, and someone, very specific here, and someone asks you, what do you do for a living? What line of work are you in? I would really like to hear each of your responses, your elevator pitches. I'll have a rough stab at this. So I help people plan for and retire for fulfilling retirements where there are no money worries. That's it. I don't mention my nomenclature as an IFA or a wealth manager or anything else. I say I help people live fulfilled retirements without money worries. Guys, do you want to have a stab at that one?
Can I be, just before we do, Nick, can I ask you that? That sounds like a classic elevator pitch. You literally, to quote Toby's question, you're at the proverbial barbecue and someone says that's exactly what you would say. I help people fulfill whatever it was, fulfilling retirements. Is that literally what you would say, word for word, to some stranger you met over a hot dog and a glass of warm wine?
Yes, I have to caveat it that I don't get invited to any social events, so I've never had the opportunity. And when I go to the supermarket, I don't want to talk to the checkout chicks. So I self-scan. I talk to the scanning machine because actually I get quite a good rapport with that. But yes, if I was asked,
Right.
I think that's what I would try and say. I'd probably mangle the words because I'm English and it's uncomfortable, but that's what I try and
All
and
right,
get
this
across.
is hypothetical, right?
It's extremely hypothetical. Anybody else got an elevator pitch they want to have?
Andy will come
tore
in here
apart?
because Andy and I have spoken about this quite a few times in the past, trying to get the right phraseology, because financial planner, IFA, and all the rest of it, just to the general public, I think sends out the wrong messages. I'm afraid the brand has been tarnished over the years. Yeah. I'll sort of have a go at mine. I use for my sins currently, and I don't think anyone's got this right. Trust me, I've done my research. For my sins, I currently use the phrase wealth manager. I think it's a more encompassing. I think people kind of get it and understand it. But the best kind of elevator pitches are saying what it is that you do that somebody can mentally sort of file away. Yes, I've heard of that thing before, and then say who you do it for. So I would just say I run a wealth management business for entrepreneurs. We help business owners, make sense of their money and taxes, and that's it. So minimal. What I do, who I do it for. Next, do you want another sausage on your plate? That's the barbecue.
Any ketchup with that?
And what do you think about Tesla stock? That's the next question. And it's like, no. So that elevator pitch
it's great.
We
We own it along with 13,000 other stocks. Next.
Yeah.
Andy's good at this. Come on.
Or Andy.
Come on, Andy.
Andy?
No, I'm not good at this. I've done different things over the years. I stick to financial advisor.
You're not good at this.
I'm not good at this. People just want to put you in a box.
Andy, the ultra crepidarian Andy. He knows about everything. Andy can't be told anything. His name is Andrew Hart. Andrew Hart.
Oh, file this one away. Episode 17, and he's not good at something. I knew we'd get there in the end, my friend. Crack on.
Oh, right. I don't think you played that last show. I am nursing the worst chest infection ever, and I was going to pull out of this episode, but anyway, I turned up for the fans. Those watching on YouTube will see how much I'm coughing. Anyway, I've got a doctor's appointment at 1 p.m. to go through my chest X-ray. All right, keep on topic. Now, I do say I'm a financial advisor. People just want to put you in a box. They don't want anything complicated. I'm a financial life planner and all this sort of jargon. I might say to them, I help people answer expensive questions. I've been banging on about expensive questions for years. Depends who they are. Most people, I don't want to talk about what it is that I do. Immediately I wouldn't want them as a client. It just depends on what type of thing it is. But I'm a little bit more down the line than, maybe the person asking the question. He still needs to do elevator pitches, I suppose. But yeah, I stick to keeping it simple. Financial advisor.
Carl, anything to add?
I might.
Yeah. So we have one written down, which everyone in Metas is supposed to know off by heart, and it goes something like, we help busy high achievers get really important stuff done by creating a bespoke, individualized lifestyle financial plan. Now,
right, the elevator has already gone to the top floor, and everyone's got out of it half an hour ago.
Excuse me, let me finish, please. Now, I would never say that in the supermarket. I don't like talking to people in the supermarket because I just hate shopping. So I'm never having that conversation in the supermarket. But at a barbecue, I clearly am never saying that. So that's the big reveal to all the Metas team who've been going around saying it.
Yeah.
So
do as I say, not as I do. Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
How many days of the year can you have barbecues in Ireland?
Yeah, maybe 4 or 5. But that's 4 or 5. But that's maybe 4 or 5 more than Nick has invited us. So there you go.
This is true.
I would say something like, look, we do a little bit like what Alan says. Yeah, we do wealth management, we do investment in pensions, but we do it a little bit differently because I think that everybody has a burning subconscious question in their mind, which is, are we going to be okay? And look, we're able to work that thing out over time. Yeah, so I got there in the end, guys, despite the fact that you were all guffawing at my first effort at it.
You love it. You love it, boys. You love it. Okay, so that's the Trappist questions done, I think. Without any further ado, we can move on to Culture Corner. And Carl, we're going to lead off with you. Your one, Brad Johnson, formerly of Elite Advisor Blueprint, has a new podcast out. Do tell us about it, young man.
But well, I can't because big reveal again, right? I haven't actually listened to any of his new ones, right? But I did include it in the show notes because I follow Kristen Shea. You should link in with Kristen because she's just absolutely brilliant. I've put her Twitter handle in the show notes along with Brad. I loved Brad's Elite Advisor podcast. Is that what it was called? The previous one. It was absolutely fantastic. And again, to Emilia and anybody else starting out their journey or looking to kind of grow your business, just go and listen to all of those. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So I have them downloaded, but I haven't listened to any of the latest the new ones that Brad has launched. So looking forward to doing that.
Okay, Carl. Well, I've done the whole work for you because I saw this in the show notes a few days ago, and I have down. He's pushed out 5 episodes to date, and I've listened to the first one. And basically, he was a former regulated investment advisor in the USA. He's actually given that up completely now to become a consultant to other advisors. So it's a big transition, and I think it'll be a good series. Interestingly, with podcasts, you know, if you get a magazine or something and it comes every week, you suddenly notice if you don't get it, right, or it comes every month, if it stops, you kind of notice it. With podcasts, when they drop off and they don't publish episodes, I never realised, you just don't, unless it's a real favourite. The Elite Advisor Blueprint, he stopped doing that in July 2020. That's almost 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I hadn't kind of even, because I did like it, it's one of those ones I dip in and out of depending on the subject matter. But it's just funny how podcasts can just slowly get out of your life and you don't even realise. So thank you for that. Thank you for that one, Carl. My Culture Corner is a book that I think Andy mentioned at our peer group, one of our peer group meetings that myself, Andy and Alan go to. The book is called Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. Really interesting guy. Manhattan, New York, the restaurant scene is ultra competitive. Okay, top class dining places, expensive. They're all desperate to get their Michelin stars. It's a mad world, and this is a really good book about how this guy Will Guidara helped with his partners run 11 Madison Park and got it up to 3 Michelin stars, and just how they went out of their way to give just unbelievable hospitality. And you don't have to like restaurants to enjoy this book. It probably helps, but the lessons learned as well can be, any service industry could pick up on what this guy talks about, just going the extra mile and surprising people. Like a basic thing. These diners would park their cars up, metered car parking, because it's hard to park in Manhattan, have their meal, and have to go outside now and again to top up the meters. And he said, no, what we'll do, we'll just get the keys from the customers, whatever, if they need to get into the car and move it, and or they would just, the restaurant staff would go out and top the meter. They say, okay, which car is yours? Mr. and Mrs. Diner, and they would go out and top up the meters on behalf of the customers, so they wouldn't have to leave their seats and ruin their dine. It's just a small thing like that. And there's loads of things where you just wow people by doing the unexpected and being unreasonable in a good way with your hospitality. So a really good book. Okay, Mr. Smith, you're next. Stuart Bell and I don't know how you say it, Audere Consulting.
Yeah. Yes. Just before I do that, I would. I just want to follow up that on the book recommendation. Again, I've got that, haven't started reading it yet, but it kind of reminds me of, I can't remember if we mentioned this before, this idea of critical non-essentials. A lot of ideas that I took out from a guy called Paddy Lund, Australian dentist, who kind of revolutionized the kind of whole dental profession, would you believe, of all professions, and became an absolute sort of superstar celebrity dentist in Australia by doing a similar sort of thing, loads and loads of small but impactful ideas. And I think it's worthy of a sort of perhaps a future discussion on this podcast. What are these sort of additional things you could do to really make the client experience just stand out? So that's worth checking out. My one is, there's a guy called Stuart Bell who is in Australia. And he's asked me, I've been following him for several years. He's asked me to come on his podcast in the next couple of weeks. He is a coach and a consultant to financial advisors in Oz. And we know that Australia has got a very developed financial planning profession. They're doing some great things over there. And there's a lot of content on his website. Again, his firm is called yeah, I don't know how to spell it, how to say either. Audere, A-U-D-E-R-E, Audere Consulting. We'll put a link to it. It's got a ton of stuff and PDFs and downloads and checklists and ideas. So it's really, really useful and worth checking out. Stuart Bell down there in Sydney, Australia. And one, I'll chuck an extra one in, which is always, I like doing this every quarter, the JP Morgan, the guide to the markets. It's just full of I think, really interesting, geeky type stuff. And if nothing else, I tell you, it reconfirms all the information that we know, that investing in the capital markets, investing in global equities is likely to give you a better outcome than anything else, backed with a ton of information and data. So again, I've posted a link to that in the show notes, worth having a look at. Thank you.
If you only
stuff.
read
it's in the
one,
JP Morgan Guide to the Markets.
if you only read one publication every single year,
What?
it would be the JP Morgan Guide to the Markets.
Yes, and there are about 80 slides in it, depending on whether you've got the US or the UK one. But there are two slides that always resonate with me, and I think resonate with you guys. One is the slide showing the intra-year declines. 15% peak to trough is totally average and totally normal. Where do you read that? Anywhere else? Nowhere. And the second slide is showing the returns of different fund sectors and against the return of the average investor gets, and that's the so-called behavior gap, and which just seems endemic and perennial and is never going to go away despite our best efforts, which is good because it gives us reason to be on this planet. Mr. Hart, you have a Culture Corner section, Modern Wisdom Pod with Alex Hormozy.
That's exactly right. So again, it's another Modern Wisdom podcast recommendation. Chris Williams interviews Alex Hormozy. Fantastic, absolutely brilliant. Alex Hormozy is a relatively young, successful entrepreneur. He's like early 30s. He's got some great sort of mental models and ways of seeing the world. Definitely recommend checking it out.
Great stuff, and there'll be a link to all these items in the so-called show notes. I think, by hook or by crook, we've somehow got to the end of this show with our friend Mr. Smith in Courchevel and various IT issues that you won't, dear Trappist, you won't understand. We've got them going on in this show. Let's hope it comes out.
Bring out the jingle. It's another absolute shambles, but
it's another.
We'll
It's
okay.
another.
I'm trying to take the stress.
Shambles.
I'm trying to take the stress out of my life.
I know. No.
This is the most stressful hour of every week.
Do you know, I did my tax return this morning, and it was more enjoyable than doing this.
Absolute shambles.
And that's true. I did my tax return at 7 a.m. on the 6th of April.
Oh, gosh.
OCD, me, not at all. Okay. Thank you very much, dear Trappists, for your time and your input. Please do rate us. Leave a 6 out of 5 star review on iTunes. Like and subscribe to our burgeoning YouTube channel. And we will see you on the other side. Take care out there, folks. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.